It's nice for an organization like ours to have someone in the community reach out and actually ask to hear me speak. So would you mind telling my children that I can speak really well and they should listen to me? Anyways, I've been at New Westminster Family Place, as Lori was saying, for a number of years now, and I'm just loving every day of it. I have a great time there, and we see lots and lots of families in the community. New West Family Place has been in existence since 1989. We're a resource center for parents of preschoolers to come in, such as the two little angels that are sitting back there, so well behaved today. And we have a number of programs, a number of things that are happening there, and we have a lot of fun. But we work really hard at the program to make it look fun. We're ready when people come in, and we have a family resource person there, a family support worker, and we have an early childhood educator so that their parents are asking questions about things like child development, discipline, techniques, etc., etc. So it's all laid out for them. They can pick and choose like a smorgasbord for whatever their needs are. We've seen thousands of families over the years, probably some, I would say, relatives or friends of yours. We service the Lower Mainland, not just New Westminster, so it's an interesting mix of people that come through. There's only 6 of us that work there. But we managed to do a great deal and touch a lot of families. We have an open door policy, so at 9:30 in the morning the door opens, and at 11:30 we close up again, so that there's a 2-hour window for them to have fun and learn things. So at the main site at 93 6th Street, we have a big playroom. It's all set up for folks and for the parents and the children to play and interact together. And we have a parents' room in the back where the parents can go and chat and have educational programs. We have, we're open 5 days a week and Monday and Tuesday afternoon also. During that time, we have a clothing exchange, we have a pasta day, and we have birthday parties for children whose birthdays in that month. That's at the main site. We also have 2 off-site programs, one at Kelvin Elementary, that's open Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it runs exactly the same as the main site does, except it opens the doors at 9 o'clock. And we also have another program at the food bank, and the food bank is in session, so that's very interesting too. And they run the same way, so that there's free play for an hour and a half. Then what we do is everyone cleans up and all the children wash their hands with their parents' support. And then we offer a snack for the children, and it's always apple juice, mixed cereal, and fresh fruit. And then we have circle time that the PCD person looks after. And then we say goodbye, and they're gone by 11:30, and we do it again and again. So the children understand the repetition, and they get comfortable that way. Just a little note, we need volunteers. We have a big volunteer program that Faye Duxbury runs, and she is an amazing person. She has 20 to 25 volunteers there most of the time. But if anyone would like to volunteer with us, especially at Kelvin School, we could use some help there because it's become very popular. Sometimes we're kind of a victim of our own success. The most important way that we reach out to parents and change things or help them along, give them confidence, is our parenting classes. So we run one for years called Nobody's Perfect, and that's for parents who would like to learn things like discipline techniques, safety in the home, self-care. That runs for 6 weeks, and we also have weekly ones. So every Wednesday we have an educational program down there at the main site. So we work hard to make it look nice for the families, and I think we're successful. Last year alone we had over 450 families come to us. Now that's just a family. They can have 1 child, 2 children. Sometimes they have 5 children. So it's really amazing down there. Busy, but fun. Just a quick just so you understand some of the situations that we deal with. We have a mom and a dad and their little sons. So their Amy was the mom, Sam and little David came from Eastern Europe, hoping for a better life for themselves and their newborn little boy. With any new immigrant, the first year is the hardest. They had to rent a one-bedroom apartment that was built in the 50s, 3 stories, no elevator, and it was old and it was dirty. It was a rough start. Sam wanted to start his own plumbing business, and he worked 10 to 12 hours a day trying to start this business. And Amy, alone with no friends or family in Canada, they had their apartment broken into twice, and they decided to move to a better apartment that was bigger. It was more expensive, which meant that they had to watch their money even more. The only problem with that apartment, they liked it, but the other tenants didn't like babies. And anytime David would cry, they would bring out their brooms and bang on the walls and the floor. Amy lived in constant fear, because don't forget, she came from a war-torn country, that these people would knock at her door and start yelling at her. She thought they had the ability to get rid of her, too. She told us later she felt like she was drowning. 23 years old with a new marriage, a new son, and a new country, and all her support was back home. For the first time in her life, she was experiencing poverty up close and personal. Then the worst thing happened. The baby got sick, had to go to Vancouver Children's Hospital. He was covered in tubes and even needed help with his breathing. With Sam working long hours and David so sick, Amy felt that she was living without hope. Then little David got an infection, got even worse if you can believe it, and had to be transferred to the intensive care unit at the Royal Columbian Hospital. Although it was much closer to home, it meant she had more time to think, and she became very, very depressed and experienced problems with breastfeeding, which was not a good thing at all. She was living on the edge of a breakdown, with Sam working long hours to make a living. Can you imagine what she went through? I can't. Sitting there beside her son, she could hardly speak to the caregivers because of her language barrier. Anyways, then the day came and the baby's health returned, and they could take him home. They were exhausted, and they felt more alone than ever. It should have been a happy time bringing your child home, but it wasn't. It was very confusing and very overwhelming. There's no medical support then. So a wise doctor said to her, why don't you try one of those drop-in programs that I've been hearing about for my life? I don't know who this man was. I'd still like to thank him. So she lived up around North Kelvin. And so she kind of, so she was out walking with David a number of times. She had to go back and forth 3 or 4 times before she got the courage to come in because of her language barrier. Little did she know that there was many other people in that program that were in the same language boat that she was. She learned parenting skills with us. She learned, she made new friends. David made new friends. The other thing that was happening while he was in the hospital and she was feeling so bad is that he was growing. He became, I think he was about a year old. And so we started doing things that were typical 1-year-old children things. And it became a problem. So she wasn't into disciplining because she was overwhelmed by everything. So we helped her with that. Effective discipline techniques are really great. So the early years between birth to age 6 set the path for lifelong learning and future behaviors. If we do nothing, vulnerable children like David, and he was vulnerable because his parents were vulnerable, run the risk of being left behind in school. Usually a downward spiral, as most of us know, start at kindergarten, and it continues on if it's not checked. I got permission from Amy to tell her story because she knows about the work we do in the community. And she wanted to help us. She said that the way that she felt then, if Family Place hadn't been there, she wouldn't have been able to come out of her house because she was so depressed. So to leave on a high note, the family lives now in Burnaby with 2 boys and drop in occasionally to say hello and thank you again. She returned to school and has a degree in therapeutic recreation, if you can believe it. So, and her husband is a really nice plumbing business. And I think the boys are thinking of going on to university. So one family. Then if any of you are interested in volunteering, what you get back is us saying thank you and being thankful, but you get a sense of absolute wonder at some of the successes that you've seen, especially with the Nobody's Perfect Parenting Program, a 6-week program. They come in, they're overwhelmed, they're just breathing badly, and then all of a sudden after 6 weeks they're confident and they're wonderful parents. They just need that confidence to tell them that. So anyways, I really want to thank you for having me here today. I love talking about my family faith. Thank you, everyone.
And the Hummingbird Ministries, and we support both of these ministries through our own congregation. In 1988, through the Presbytery of Counties, a survey was done by the Reverends David Weber and Robert Garvin to look at the needs and viability of ministry in the Cariboo-Chilcotin region. Both ministers had had a vision to see rural and remote people reached with the gospel of Christ and to have the opportunity to worship in their own communities. After the survey was done, David and Robert presented the vision to reach out to these people with a model of house churches. Others took hold of the vision. The Presbytery of Counties and then the Synod of BC supported the vision. When the National Church was approached, they also supported the vision, but could not extend that support to the finances needed to make the vision a reality. A year after the original proposal was presented, the Synod of British Columbia took up the challenge. Through the gifts of the people and the churches of British Columbia, David and Linda Weber were able to move to Appalachian and establish the first house church in their own home. They spent many hours driving through the back roads of the Cariboo-Chilcotin meeting people and seeking out interest for the building of a church in the area. 5 years later, there were 7 established house churches meeting throughout the week, with more ready to begin. During those early years, a body of elders, now known as the Session, was built up. Initially, the elders were borrowed from other congregations. Then, as the ministry grew, elders were chosen from within the new congregation. At that point, the congregation felt that it was time to expand the work by calling another full-time missionary to share the ministry responsibilities with David Weber. In September 1994, John Wyomega and Shannon Bell Wyomega were called as a team to fill one position between the two of them. John and Shannon settled in Williams Lake in the center of the region. This enabled the team to begin establishing more ministry points, and the number quickly doubled during those first 2 years. After 6 years in Williams Lake, John and Shannon felt God's call to move to the village of Nasco, 3 hours northeast, to focus more on the growing Native ministry there. In 2010, we marked 21 years of mission through the Cariboo Presbyterian Church. Over the whole 21 years of the life of the congregation, there have been 27 different ministry points with up to 18 operating at any given time. The Hummingbird Ministries. Mary Fontaine founded Hummingbird Ministries in 2004 as a Presbyterian ministry of healing for the Aboriginal people of British Columbia's west coast. She was ordained in Mistawassa, Saskatchewan, where she is from. Her ordination gave her new opportunities in her ministry. Many have asked her to baptize them, their children or their grandchildren. Now she can. The first person she baptized was her own grandson. For those already baptized as children, Mary Fontaine will plan rededication services. The Presbyterian Church in Canada doesn't advocate rebaptism. Fontaine is excited about introducing the sacrament of communion to her Aboriginal circles. Feasting is an important part of First Nations communities, so communion is likely to become an important part of worship. Mary Fontaine, or Hummingbirds worship, uses the sacred circle, where the Creator God is placed at the center. A lot of sharing and listening happens at these circles, some of which is very painful. It can be overwhelming for leaders to take all that pain upon themselves. Emotional healing is possible only by lifting the burdens and pains to God in prayer, and the sharing is reciprocal. Fontaine says, as a teacher, I teach,
but I also learn. I listen, but I am also heard. I pray for others, but they also pray for me. Listening is key to any kind of work. One of the needs identified by Aboriginal people is a desire to reach out to you, since they often don't feel comfortable attending either a church or a traditional longhouse. This is also complicated by the reluctance of today's youth to be identified as Aboriginal. Mary Fontaine's approach has been to meet them where they're at, whether that's playing ball outside on the churchyard, attending the Coast Salish annual paddle to Lumley canoe journey, or encouraging youth to participate in the annual Native American Indigenous Games. Mary Fontaine has taken seriously the Presbyterian Church's agenda to walk with the Aboriginal people of Canada. This commitment stems from the Church's 1994 confession regarding its involvement in residential schools. Mary, through Hummingbird Ministries, is gently joining hands with the First Nations people of BC. It is significant for those to whom she ministers that she is both a Christian and a First Nations person. She is a personification of harmony and unity. Hummingbird Ministries began as a ministry of Central Presbyterian Church in Vancouver. Initially, an advisory team was formed, but this has since become a council consistent with principles of non-hierarchical equality and team leadership. As the ministry grew, it was placed under the jurisdiction of the Presbytery of Westminster. Hummingbird Ministries is supported financially by many sources, including the Presbyterian Innovative Ministries, the Jack Smith Fund of the Synod of BC, the Presbytery of Westminster, WMS Groups, Cook's Fund of Toronto, and the Presbyterian congregations and individuals. Hummingbird's biggest supporter, Canada Ministries, recently committed to ongoing financial assistance, which provides a significant level of support and encouragement. And if you want to know anything more about the Hummingbird Ministries, you can talk to Shirley and Terrence, because Shirley is quite involved with the Hummingbird Ministries. So if you want some more information about that, you can talk to Shirley.
That's kind of why I think you're doing the full immersion in the lake.
It was. Yeah, that was Shannon baptizing somebody in the lake. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? We actually, in our budget, we do support Hummingbird Ministries in our budget, as well as the Heritage Ministry and Camp Douglas. Oh, this is in a slide thing now. So these are our, okay, so we're just going to escape here because it's going too quickly. Let's see if it goes back. I just wanted to show you, this is a Presbyterian World Service where we have partners throughout the world in various places where we respond. And this is the list of all of the different partners that we work with. And so even when you think that you can't give a lot, or that you perhaps don't have a lot of ideas of how to help the refugees and help all these people, we have many connections throughout the world, and it's through these partners that we're able to make a huge difference. And also, many times, any offering of $1 is matched by the government, so that we sometimes give $5 for every dollar that we give, which is an amazing thing for a Presbyterian World Service. These are, I just wanted to let you know that in one of the practical ways that the Presbyterian Sharing or Presbyterian World Service has helped with Syrian refugees in particular is they have helped initiatives from the presbytery. So they have given some seed money or some other ways in which to help, either through contacts, through administration support in filling out forms and so on, just learning. And there was a presbytery in Ottawa that wanted to work as a presbytery, because most of our churches are small, and they can't afford to bring over a whole family. So together with the presbytery, they raised enough funds to not only bring one family, they brought 5 Syrian refugee families to Canada. And that was only made possible because they weren't trying to do it on their own. And I was thinking about how so often we feel like we have to do it all. And as a small congregation, you think, well, what can we do? But the reality with so many of our missions is that we are not alone, not only in our humanity, but in our divinity. And somehow when God touches our intention and our first step, that blesses with making connections elsewhere. I was thinking about this past week, we had the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity we hosted here at St. Aidan's. And we had 2 Salvation Army officers, a clergy couple, share the word about how we are salt for the world and how we are light for the world. And one of the great images that was offered was the wheel, and how we're all spokes on the wheel, but as we get closer to the middle, then we get closer to each other. And I think that's a good word for us. You know, sometimes we need to pray for each other, keep our eyes on Christ, and then we'll be able to reach out better to our neighbor. They seem to be closer somehow when we get closer to God. The opposite is true as well, perhaps. For those people who don't have an understanding of God, they try to help. And, you know, somehow they have a sense of something more powerful coming through the collective or being joined together. So I just wanted to open up our way of thinking that we are more than we can ask or imagine because of the spokes at the wheel and God calling us to be together. Let's say this together. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because He has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord.